Hello everybody and welcome to another patch review. Today we're going to be going over the 11.6 patch notes, and there's a lot of things in here that are going to take some time to go over because they're a little bit complicated. One of the things I love about doing these sorts of videos is that I can make a mistake and then just edit it out. I really need to get better at staring into the camera. I have really good eyes, and if I stare into the camera, I think it works out a lot better for everyone. Part of the problem is I'm a bit of a shy person. I'm not exactly a social person, so maintaining eye contact is a bit of a difficulty for me. But in these videos, I'm trying to get better, especially with the whole breathing thing. So, guys, bear with me here. I'm getting better at it, I feel. But, first we have Akali. Now, Akali is getting a lot of changes here. You can see that her health is going down, her health growth is going up. She's getting a lot of changes to her passive and her Q and her other energy restore abilities, and she's getting some damage buffs right now. I don't know how these changes will play out, but at least with her W, it seems like they're trying to decrease the skill gap by allowing you to screw up a little bit and still maintain your energy. Now, to explain my thoughts on the matter here, Riot has pushed Akali on their front page and in many other areas trying to push her as a popular champion. They put her in KDA, they put her on the front page of their website, they advertised her a lot, and as such, a lot of the lower ranking people and people more interested in playing League of Legends picked up Akali. The problem here is Akali is too high of a skill floor of a champion in order to have these low ranking people play well on her. What I mean by skill floor is there's a lot of things you need to do in order to play Akali that your average player can't really pull off so well. Things like her W restoring 80 energy, but if you don't miss 80 energy, then you aren't getting that 80 energy. So Akali players need to be sure that before they W, they spend some of their energy, which seems like something that's not that important, but actually is something that you need to learn how to do. Akali has a lot of these little features here that just kind of add to the skill floor of the champion without really contributing that much gameplay to the overall game. Now, if Riot wants to continue to push Akali for the low ranks, what they need to do is ensure that her skill floor is lowered so your average player can play her more, but her win rate, especially at the higher ranks, doesn't dominate the game because the high ranking people will obviously learn the champion and know how to do well with her. I'm hoping that these changes go over well and her skill floor is decreased and her overall power is of course decreased as well. They're nerfing her early game especially and buffing her late game especially. Now, the early game is more important to the higher ranks and the late game is more important to the lower ranks. So I'm hoping that this overall, all these changes, and I think the numbers might be a little bit over the top right now, but I'm hoping that these overall changes will enable her to be playable at the lower ranks because they have really pushed her and they will keep buffing her if she's not viable at the lower ranks, which just fucks over the high ranks. As one of the high ranking players, I don't want her fucking over my game, and therefore I'm hoping this finally enables her lower ranks to be stronger so that Riot can stop trying to buff her so that Tom and Joe, the fucking weebs who see her on the front page, go, oh my god, a ninja and she's so cute, I want to go play her and buy her skins, and Riot, you should buff her so I can dominate, ugh. Okay, going over Akali took a lot of time, but I think it was worth it because Akali and those changes definitely needed a lot to explain them all, right? The next champions hopefully won't take too much time. So up next we have Gnar. I'm kind of not happy with these Gnar changes because they promised a lot more nerfs to him and they failed to deliver. What was originally promised were some really serious nerfs that I was hoping was going to really decrease the power of the champion because he's seriously over the top right now, but instead all we got was a 10 damage nerf on the magic damage from his W3 hit combo. Considering how powerful Gnar is doing right now, I don't think this is going to be enough, and we will be back here revisiting him again. Gnar was buffed up to fight champions who then got nerfed, and because those champions have been nerfed, he's been buffed up to fight champions that don't exist anymore. The Stridebreaker nerf isn't going to be enough to take him down because also it's nerfing all the other champions he's going against anyway. This champion really needed something to take him down so that he wasn't such a safe pick while also scaling so well, and this 10 damage is really not it. Overall, I don't think this is going to be a big change, and we really will see some more Gnar nerfs later. On to Hecarim, it seems they're targeting Hecarim, but once again, as with the Gnar changes, this won't really impact that much. We can see with Hecarim's win rate that these are not really the changes needed to take him down, and that win rate, that pick rate, that ban rate are way too high, and only removing, 20 damage on his Q is not going to be enough to stop this. So I think as with Gnar, we will be revisiting Hecarim again. Like, that's really what I have to say. We're going to be revisiting him again. I think we all know that that's true. On to Karthus, they're nerfing his Q damage by 20, but only at rank 5. They're only nerfing it by, 2.5, so 5 damage per rank. I think, unlike some other people, I think this is actually a good nerf. I think that Karthus hitting most of his Qs actually dominated way too hard. Some people are saying that they should have nerfed his other abilities and left his skill-intensive Q, but I think a lot of people have actually noticed it, especially when you play melee champions is against Karthus, and you can't really afford to dodge his Q so much, that he can tend to actually beat you in melee by just Q spamming on you. This is something I noticed, and you guys who watch my stream noticed that I noticed a bit back when I was playing Aatrox, and Karthus actually beat Aatrox. If both of us sat there and queued each other, Karthus would win, which I felt very surprising, because why is Karthus, but I'm not even going to go into that. It's just, I am surprised that I thought that this aspect of the champion was too strong, and now it's getting nerfed. So actually, I agree with this nerf 100%. I think, good job. Okay, as for Leblanc, I don't really like this buff because I think Leblanc is a counter pick and should remain a counter pick. I will be extremely consistent with my opinion that champions that are overly countery should have those issues addressed before they should be buffed back up into the limelight. Even though I don't believe this buff is going to do very much, I just disagree with the idea that counter picks are being buffed back up if they're still countering certain champions. Not all the time, but definitely champions like Leblanc are especially feast or famine depending on who they're fighting, and this doesn't really lead to good gameplay. For Lelaya, I feel this champion has other issues that could be addressed before they potentially nerf her ultimate, but if that's the way they're going to go with it, then okay, but I would prefer they actually delve into the champion and solve some of the issues, but a nerf is a nerf. Don't know if it'll be enough, but a nerf is a nerf. For Pyke, I'm not 100% on this because this buffs his escape moves and this buffs his stun, especially a stun that can be a pretty long duration. Considering they nerfed the hell out of Pyke's ability to solo lane, I think that they could definitely give him back some of his base stats, his health, his armor, and his magic resist before they go into him and start giving him survivability through buffs on his escape/engage move. Now, buff is a buff, and he's definitely underpowered, but I think that because they solved solo lane Pyke, that they could definitely go back and give him some of his base survivability again. For Renekton, I just don't think he's overpowered. If they want to see more top laners in pro play, then what they should do is buff other top laners. They nerfed the crap out of so many top laners at this point that really we're seeing a lot of Renekton. That shouldn't really surprise many people, I don't feel. This Sylas change feels unneeded as he's starting to get picked more at the high ranks and in pro play, and I think that this change might push him over the top. Worth noting that even though they're nerfing his health ratio, they're decreasing the cooldown, so his health per second is actually going up slightly, especially because of the base. The amount in a burst will go down, but overall I feel this is a bit of an overbuff, especially because he will be able to use his passive more often, and he's already getting picked sparingly. Sylas is the kind of champion that if he gets overbearing, especially at the higher ranks, he starts to feel extremely difficult to deal with because he has so many options and he has so many escapes, mobilities, ways to do things, burst, healing. Really the only weaknesses he has is wave clearing, and that's not a... That's a weakness that's exploitable, but it doesn't feel very fun to exploit, and especially as Sylas players get better and better at wave clearing, that weakness becomes weaker and weaker, and it's not that much of a weakness to begin with. So we've got this Urgot change, and this Urgot change is basically a revert of a change they did earlier, and that's done because Urgot's win rate is starting to get extremely far over the top. I think we might revisit Urgot in the future because there was a change that went over a lot of people's heads, Urgot's win rate has been pretty high for a long time, but maybe we won't revisit him. At the very least, this change has 100% put him over the top, and it's good to see Riot just very next patch be like, okay, we're reverting it, so that's good. And really, that should probably take care of the major Urgot issue for now. Boy, this is really starting to drag on, isn't it? So anyway, up next we've got Volley Bear, and Volley Bear is getting some buffs for the jungle. Volley Bear jungle isn't very good that I know about, so this really won't change very much. I think Volley Bear was intended to be a jungler, so buffing him for the jungle definitely doesn't feel like a bad thing to be doing. No real comment on this change. Volley Bear hasn't been doing terribly amazing lately, and so if they want to push him in the jungle, fine. He really won't be any different from a Rammus or a Hecarim that just kind of runs at you really quickly and tries to CC you. At worst, he'll be like an Udyr. Okay, well the Xin Zhao changes are going to take a little bit longer to go over, aren't they? First up, we've got his passive change. They're nerfing the healing a little bit on his passive, especially at the later levels, and they're doing some bug fix that I'm not really sure what that means for me because I don't play the champion, but I'm sure it's great for Xin Zhao players. We can also see some nerfs onto his Q. The 3-talent strike is losing some base damage. His W is going down in cooldown as you max it, going up in mana cost. The damage against minions is having its penalty slightly reduced over time as you level up. The cast time of the ability is no longer going down as you gain attack speed, even though it only went down by about 20%. In fact, exactly 20%. And lastly, the thrust is gaining some crit damage. The thrust range is going up, the missile speed of the thrust is going up. Now, here's what's important, is his W now targets enemies, and if you hit them with it, it challenges and reveals them for 3 seconds. Now, You can see onto his next change here that his E can now be used onto anyone who's challenged within 1100 range. That means much like a Lee Sin, he can mark you and then charge at you from extremely long distances. Now obviously he needs to charge into range, so what this basically does is as he builds ability haste and starts to get his E cooldown lower and lower, his Q reducing the cooldown on it will eventually allow him, if he hits you with his W, to charge back into range very easily. Overall, this is a nerf on his early game and a slight buff onto his late game, especially due to that reduced cooldown on his W synergizing pretty good with his Q. He'll be able to get that second E off very easily at people, and if he marks you with it and you're a squishy champion, flashing away is not going to do that much anymore. Hopefully. I don't know. I mean, maybe it will. I mean, I don't know what the cooldowns are on the champion. This really looks like a very big change when you look at the text and everything, but in effect, I don't think it's really going to do that much for him. I don't expect his win rate to go up that much. In fact, it might even go a little bit down. I'm not sure. You know, maybe I'm wrong. For an early game champion to be nerfing their early game for some buffs into the later game, especially when his E, I'm not sure that's going to be too impactful because he might not get the cooldown on his E down low enough before he's murdered, or maybe he does. Maybe he can mark you with his W and then charge back into range. I don't know. I don't think this is really going to have that big of an impact. It looks scary because he can charge at 1100 range. I think other than niche scenarios, this won't really do that much. They're also buffing up the AP ratios, which is great, I guess. Maybe he could slot some AP items. I don't know. It doesn't really look, once again, it doesn't really look like this is that big of a deal. Maybe the crit ratio will do something. Maybe you can build crit. I don't know. I don't think so, but I don't know. As for items, they are nerfing the healing on Immortal Shield Bow really hard. It's going and losing 2% lifesteal, so it's going down to 10%, not gaining the 15% at all. So it's going from 27% to 10%, and in return, it's gaining a little bit of damage, and the shield is going up a little bit. That's a pretty big nerf on Immortal Shield Bow. Expect a lot of champions to drop this item. Yone and Yasuo will no longer be drain tanking off everyone in their sphere, everyone around them. Blade of the Ruined King is going down in lifesteal but gaining a slight amount of damage. Instead of nerfing Viego, they chose to nerf Blade of the Ruined King. I don't know. I mean, I guess he's just an anime poster boy now, so we can't nerf him. And instead we'll just nerf everyone who uses the items. Cool. Now, this Styrix gauge change, I need to explain this. Back in February, this item was bugged, and it wasn't healing after the first stack anyway. So they're bug fixing it so that it heals off the first stack, but in return, they're making it heal for far less. Now, I've got some numbers on what this change is going to do. Effectively, this is 100% a buff, but it's not as big a buff as you're going to think it is. Fixing this bug, which was introduced months after the item was released, but you might have noticed that a lot of champions stopped using it who were previously, like Sion. Well, that's because Sion enjoyed the healing a lot as a really tanky champion. Now, I have seen that Styrix gauge is falling off a bit on Sion. Maybe this brings it back, but this won't make the item as good as it used to be. But this is a buff overall. I just want to be clear on it. This is a buff overall. Landry's Anguish and Luden's Tempest are getting some changes. Basically, they're trying to make them more diverse. I don't know why. I thought mage items were good, but apparently that now they've over buffed one of them, they now need to start buffing all of them to compete against it. They did the same thing with Bruisers, where when they nerfed all of them, they decided to keep nerfing all of them with a nerf to Stridebreaker. In more positive news, Seeker's Armguard is being killed, Verdant Barrier is also being killed, and Shrelia's Battle Song is having its cooldown reduced. I don't believe this is going to make Shrelia's Battle Song compete at all with Moonstone Renewer. It's not a power difference, it's like a power barrier. The power is huge between these two items. It's not even close. Reducing the cooldown a little bit will not at all close this gap. Iron Spike Whip is going down in cost, but its cooldown is going up. I think this is overall a little buff, but I would like to see this item go down to 1,000 gold, period. When they nerfed it hard by removing its crit against low health minions and monsters, I feel they went a little bit too far. You're putting a lot of gold into an item that only has 5 more damage than a pickaxe, costs 225 more gold, and now has a 20-second cooldown. If you compare this to some of the other buildables at this price range, it really comes up lacking. It even has less damage than a serrated dirk and only the same damage as a warhammer. Overall, though, I do think it makes it more competitive, and I think this is actually a buff. Sunfire is getting more ability haste and getting some emulate damage back. Sunfire has fallen out of favor with most champions. His damage continues to ramp up because Riot just continuously increases damage. Then the tanks that try to survive aren't able to survive as long as they would hope to. We've seen champions at stack health, even like Sion, being outperformed with other items on Sunfire. Sunfire is not really good on practically anyone anymore. Riot is nerfing the combined cost of Void Staff and then giving it more ability power. This is a slight nerf, but not enough a nerf, in my opinion, to make up for them buffing Rabadon's death cap, and I don't think that they should be buffing mage itemization. I think mage itemization right now is currently the best or second best itemization as compared to AD carry itemization, and now that they're nerfing AD carries through nerfing shield bow, that puts mages kind of at the top. Junglers are the best role in the game still, and as such they are now buffing their ability to heal from the jungle? Wow, Riot, you are dumb. You are dumb people. This is a stupid change. Junglers already full heal off a few jungle camps, and this is buffing their experience and buffing the amount they heal from the jungle. With that heal on Gromp being increased, I don't even know, but oh wait, they're also increasing the heal on Smite. So this is some dumb shit. They're dumb. This is dumb changes. Teleport will no longer get the respawn movement speed and the home guard movement speed. It will be removed upon teleporting. In return, the movement speed is going up to 50% at all ranks instead of 30, 40, 50%, but the cooldown is going down at the higher levels. Fleet Footwork is getting the heal ratio reduced on AP. My personal opinion is that Fleet Footwork should actually have a higher AD ratio. The AP ratio is probably fine. What they should have done is reduced its healing on minions, on melee champions, and buffed melee champions healing on other champions. I think that Fleet Footwork right now is only good at hitting jungles and hitting minions for melee champions and gets outscaled really hard. Reducing its AP ratio reduces one of its only uses for melee champions, which is to go on things like Kassadin and heal through the laning phase. Ravenous Hunter is effectively dead at this point. Only people that really synergize with it are possibly going to use it anymore. There's very little reason to use this rune, and I think this is basically the death of that. As for bug fixes, I pretty much went over the biggest bug fix for Stark's Gauge, and that was really the big one. Other than that, there's not really much in this patch, so I hope you all enjoyed this. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll try to do this again. I'm sorry if today's wasn't too exciting, but I had a lot to go over, and I kind of had to stay serious to keep this under a 30-minute video because the Akali and the Xin Zhao stuff was really long. I tried to put in there a few jokes for you people, but overall I was trying to really go over this patch and get you guys some information on it. Thank you all for watching, and thank you all for subscribing and liking and turning on notifications. I've said it twice because sometimes you guys don't listen and you need it said twice. But thank you all. I appreciate you all for watching. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night. Bye-bye.